12 years after Paul Atreides' victory in Dune. Part 2, he reigns as emperor from the desert planet Arrakis. Billions have died in his name, as his freeman-led jihad swept across the galaxy. While Paul is hailed as the divine Muad'Dib, he privately mourns the death toll and questions the legacy of his rule. Though his empire thrives, resistance grows beneath the surface. Irulan Carino, Paul's politically arranged wife, remains childless. Paul has refused to father a child with her, remaining emotionally and physically committed to Chani. The Bene Gesserit, frustrated that they cannot obtain an heir from Paul, pressure Irulan to take matters into her own hands. She agrees to secretly drug Chani to prevent her from conceiving. A shadowy alliance forms between four powerful factions: the Bene Gesserit, the Tleilaxu, the Spacing Guild, and discontented freemen. Each has their own reasons for fearing Paul's prescience and godlike image. They hatch a bold plot to destabilize his rule by introducing a psychological weapon, a Gola, hate, a resurrected version of Duncan, Idaho. Chani, growing suspicious of her infertility, seeks out traditional freeman herbal methods and specialized spice regimens to enhance her fertility. She is unaware of Irulan's ongoing sabotage, emotionally strained and fearing she's losing her place beside Paul. She doubles down on efforts to become pregnant. The Tleilaxu present Paul with a Gola named Hate, a clone of Duncan, Idaho, Paul's loyal swordmaster, who died defending him years ago. Hate appears calm and obedient, but Paul's prescience senses something disturbing. Despite his mistrust, Paul keeps Hate close to observe him. The presence of this echo from his past adds to Paul's emotional turmoil. Paul's prescient abilities grow more intense and more horrifying. He sees countless futures filled with endless war, religious tyranny, and destruction stemming from his lineage. One vision shows the birth of a child that could end his reign. Another hints at his own downfall. He is paralyzed by the paradox. Every action to prevent disaster only ensures it. Paul's sister Alia, born with full consciousness from the womb due to spice exposure, has grown into a powerful political and religious figure. But the countless ancestral voices in her mind begin to overwhelm her. She struggles to maintain control while navigating the complex politics of the empire, always walking a tightrope between reverence and fear. Paul narrowly survives an attack orchestrated by the conspirators using a mysterious, nearly invisible assassin. While Paul is unharmed, the attack reveals how deeply the conspiracy has infiltrated his court. He becomes more paranoid, mistrustful even of close allies. The cracks in his divine persona begin to show. Hate begins to exhibit memories and personality traits of Duncan, Idaho. He is plagued by dreams and inner conflict, unsure if he is man or machine. Triggers implanted by the Tleilaxu threaten to turn him against Paul. But Hate's love for Chani and respect for the Atreides begins to override his conditioning. During a trap set by the conspirators using a forbidden weapon called a stone burner, a miniature atomic device, Paul is physically blinded. However, his prescience allows him to continue seeing through time and space. To the Freeman, this miracle proves his godhood. To Paul, it is a symbol of how detached from humanity he has become. With Irulan's sabotage discovered and stopped, Chani finally becomes pregnant. She and Paul are overjoyed, but also fearful. Paul's visions return, revealing conflicting fates, either the birth of a savior or the destruction of his empire. Chani's health begins to deteriorate due to the powerful spice supplements she had taken to conceive. Paul holds a formal gathering of the Landsraad and high-ranking figures for a dramatic public trial. Through subtle manipulation, prescience, and political maneuvering, Paul forces the conspirators to expose themselves without outright execution, allowing history to judge them. He embraces transparency as a way to break the illusion of divine infallibility. Paul confronts Irulan with the evidence of her poisoning. She admits guilt, but justifies her actions as a necessity for the Bene Gesserit breeding program. Paul strips her of influence, but does not punish her. She is allowed to live in the palace, watching the rise of Chani's offspring, the children she was meant to bear. Tragically, Chani dies in childbirth. Paul is shattered. Her death fulfills part of his prophetic vision, and it breaks what little emotional anchor he had left. However, she delivers twins, Leto II and Ganima, both born with heightened awareness and genetic memory. They are the heirs to Paul's legacy and the key to humanity's future. Hate finally breaks through his conditioning. Duncan Idaho's full consciousness is restored. Now truly himself, he swears renewed loyalty to Paul and helps protect the twins from any remaining conspirators. The rebirth of Duncan represents a sliver of hope for Paul, now surrounded by death and betrayal. Grieving and disillusioned, Paul makes a radical choice. He relinquishes the throne and walks into the desert, blind, embracing the Freeman tradition of death for those who can no longer serve. His departure is both exile and liberation. To the people, it is a holy sacrifice. To Paul, it is an escape from the future he can no longer bear. Alia assumes control as regent for the Atreides twins. She consolidates power quickly, but the ancestral voices within her begin to dominate her thoughts. Alia teeters on the edge of madness, though to the public, she is a divine priestess. The seeds of her eventual downfall are quietly planted. Paul's myth grows. His departure only cements his godlike status among the Freemen and across the galaxy. New religious cults rise. The image of Muad'Dib becomes more powerful than the man ever was. The violence of his rule is sanctified by legend, and history begins to blur reality with prophecy. As infants, the twins demonstrate eerie awareness, speaking in voices beyond their age and understanding complex ideas. Paul's prescience lives on in them. Leto too begins to experience prophetic visions of his own. The twins are not merely children. They are the beginning of a new phase in human evolution. In a final, haunting scene, Paul is shown walking alone into the deep desert, blind, accompanied only by the howling wind. He foresees Leto II's eventual transformation into the God Emperor and the birth of the Golden Path, a long, painful, and necessary plan to save humanity from stagnation, destruction, and extinction.